I will honestly say I don't remember ever speaking a word to Esther the whole time she was there. I think the same basically goes.
When the television show Good Times first aired in 1974, it was not only a family sitcom, but also a cultural milestone. The series focused on the Evans family, an African-American family living in Chicago, and it quickly became one of the most talked-about shows of its time. At the center of this family was Esther Rolle, who played Florida Evans, and Jimmie Walker, who played her eldest son, J.J. Evans. The show was known for blending comedy with important social issues like poverty, racism, and family struggles. Yet, despite its success, behind-the-scenes tensions often made headlines. Rumors spread about disagreements between Walker and Rolle, especially regarding the direction of the show. While the audience loved JJ's catchphrase, "Dynamite," Esther Rolle believed his character was turning into a stereotype rather than a meaningful role model. For decades, fans wondered about the true nature of their relationship. Did they really dislike each other, or was it just professional disagreement? Now, at 78, Jimmie Walker has finally spoken more openly about his complicated connection with Rolle, and his words give fans a clearer picture of what truly happened. Before Good Times, Jimmie Walker was already working as a stand-up comedian in New York. He had performed in small clubs, the Apollo Theater, and even alongside major music acts. When Norman Lear, the famous producer, cast him as JJ, Walker brought his natural comedy skills to the role. Almost overnight, he became the breakout star of the show. However, Esther Rolle, who was deeply respected for her dramatic skills, worried that the focus on JJ's silliness overshadowed the serious messages the show was supposed to deliver. Rolle often pushed back against the producers, saying that black families needed to be shown in a positive and realistic light. She wanted the Evans family to reflect dignity, strength, and unity, while Walker was being encouraged to play JJ as a goofy, exaggerated character. This clash created an ongoing tension. Walker enjoyed the spotlight and the laughs, while Rolle fought to protect the integrity of the show. Fans could sense something was off, and soon, rumors about their rocky relationship began to grow louder. One of the most talked about rumors between Walker and Rolle is connected to her death. Esther Rolle passed away in 1998 at the age of 78 due to complications from diabetes. At her funeral, many of her Good Times co-stars and admirers attended to honor her life and career. However, one person was noticeably absent, Jimmie Walker. His decision not to attend shocked fans and fueled more speculation about their relationship. People began to wonder, was his absence a final act of bitterness, or did it mean something else? Over the years, Walker avoided giving a clear explanation, which only added to the mystery. Fans who grew up loving the Evans family felt disappointed, as if the real-life rift between Walker and Rolle had overshadowed the show's message of togetherness. For decades, the story lingered in fan discussions, interviews, and even articles about Good Times. Now, as Walker reflects on his career and relationships, he has finally admitted more about why things happened the way they did, and what Rolle truly meant to him, even if their connection was complicated. When asked about Esther Rolle in later interviews, Walker often described their relationship as professional but strained. He admitted that Rolle and co-star John Amos, who played James Evans, Sr., were serious about making Good Times a platform for social change, while he simply wanted to perform and make people laugh. According to Walker, the writers and producers encouraged his comedic style because it boosted ratings, but Rolle believed it weakened the family's image. This difference in vision created distance between them, both on and off the set. Regarding her funeral, Walker explained that he felt out of place, believing his presence might not have been welcomed by her closest family and friends. Instead of forcing himself into a space where he thought he wasn't wanted, he chose to stay away. While fans may have judged him harshly, Walker insists that he respected Rolle's talent and her contributions to the show. He admitted that they never fully resolved their differences, which left him with a sense of regret. His honesty shows that while their relationship may never have been warm, it was far more layered than simple dislike. To understand why Esther Rolle's influence was so powerful, it's important to look at her career outside of Good Times. Rolle was not only the strong voice of Florida Evans, but also a trailblazer for African-American actresses. In 1979, she won an Emmy Award for her role in Summer of My German Soldier, making history as one of the first black women to be recognized in that category. She also acted in films like Driving Miss Daisy and Rosewood, always choosing roles that carried meaning rather than just chasing fame. Even in her theater work, she was dedicated to telling stories that reflected real struggles and triumphs. Rolle was deeply rooted in her values and her desire to uplift her community. This is why she clashed so strongly with the comedic portrayal of JJ on Good Times. She believed her work had a responsibility, and she lived her life according to that standard. Today, her legacy continues through exhibits of her personal items, including her scripts and awards, which remind people of her commitment to both art and truth. The tension between Jimmie Walker and Esther Rolle also affected the rest of the cast. John Amos was famously fired from Good Times after disagreeing with the writers, and Rolle temporarily left the show as well. Their departures left Walker carrying much of the series, but it also placed him in a tough spot. He later admitted that while he kept working and fulfilling his contract, the spirit of the show changed. After the series ended in 1979, Walker went back to stand-up comedy, guest starring in shows like The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and even Everybody Hates Chris. Meanwhile, his former castmates like Bernadette Stanis and Ralph Carter built their lives outside of Hollywood, focusing on writing, theater, education, and family. Looking back, Walker now says that his career choices were always about staying active in comedy, while others sought fulfillment in different ways. The fractured unity of the Good Times family on screen mirrored the fractured relationships behind the scenes, leaving fans to wonder what might have been if everyone had been on the same page. Now, as Jimmie Walker reflects at 78, he has finally confirmed what many suspected. His relationship with Esther Rolle was never close, and her disapproval of his character's direction was real. However, he also confirmed something that often gets overlooked. He respected her deeply as an actress and as a person, even if they didn't agree. Walker admitted that he learned from Rolle's dedication, even if he didn't always follow her example at the time. The rumors of dislike were true to a point, but they were rooted in professional differences, not personal hatred. Walker's absence from her funeral was not an act of disrespect, but a decision based on his belief that he wasn't welcome. By admitting this, Walker has finally put to rest years of speculation, showing fans that the truth is often more complicated than gossip. The honesty brings closure to a story that has followed him for decades, reminding viewers that even beloved television families sometimes struggle behind the scenes. In the end, both Esther Rolle and Jimmie Walker left lasting marks in different ways. Rolle became a symbol of strength, dignity, and representation, proving that Black women could take control of their careers and demand respect in Hollywood. Walker, on the other hand, became a comedy icon, with his character J.J. Evans remembered for bringing joy and laughter to millions. Though their visions often clashed, together they created a dynamic that made Good Times unforgettable. Today, Walker continues to perform stand-up comedy, reminding audiences that laughter is still his gift. Rolle's legacy, preserved in awards, memories, and the impact of her roles, continues to inspire new generations. The rumors about their feud may never completely fade, but thanks to Walker's honesty at 78, fans now understand the truth behind the story. It wasn't simple hate. It was two artists with different visions of what their work should stand for. And in that clash, they created television history that still resonates nearly 50 years later. When we talk about the 1970s, television was going through a major transformation. Shows like All in the Family, Sanford and Son, and later The Jeffersons were breaking ground by bringing working-class families and racial issues into America's living rooms. Good Times stood out because it wasn't just about comedy. It reflected real struggles faced by African-American families living in housing projects. For many viewers, it was the first time they saw their own lives represented on screen. Esther Rolle pushed hard for that realism. She wanted Florida Evans to be a character that young Black women could look up to, not someone trapped in stereotypes. Jimmie Walker's J.J., on the other hand, gave audiences comic relief with his catchphrases and over-the-top behavior. This balance, serious issues mixed with comedy, helped the show succeed, but it also created creative battles behind the scenes. Fans loved the laughter, but Rolle believed the social message was more important. These debates turned the show into more than just a sitcom. It became a cultural conversation piece. That tension between humor and social commentary is exactly what made Good Times both groundbreaking and controversial. To really understand Esther Rolle, one must look at her life outside of acting. Born in Pompano Beach, Florida, in 1920, she grew up as the daughter of Bahamian immigrants. Her upbringing was rooted in discipline, faith, and community service. Rolle carried those values with her throughout her life, both on and off screen. She was not just an actress. She was an activist who believed in using her platform for change. She often spoke at schools and community events, encouraging young people to value education and self-respect. Rolle also insisted that the writers of Good Times show a father in the household, which led to John Amos being cast as James Evans, Senior, she believed strongly in showing strong black families because television had too often painted damaging or incomplete pictures of African Americans. Even when it risked her career, Rolle refused to compromise her principles. Her Emmy-winning work later in life was further proof that she was committed to substance over style. For her, acting was never about fame. It was about making sure her work had meaning and dignity. That's why the conflict with Walker, while painful, was also understandable. She wanted the show to reflect her values, even if it meant clashing with others. When Good Times ended in 1979, many expected Jimmie Walker to disappear, but he proved them wrong. He returned to stand-up comedy, his first love, and continued performing in clubs across the United States. Audiences who remembered J.J. Evans were delighted to see him still cracking jokes, but this time on his own terms. He also landed roles in films such as Airplane in 1980, showing that his comedic style worked beyond the sitcom format. In the decades that followed, Walker guest-starred on popular TV shows, including The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and even Everybody Hates Chris, where he cleverly poked fun at his own fame. In 2012, he published a memoir titled Dynamite: Good Times, Bad Times, Our Times, which gave fans an inside look at his life, career, and thoughts on the entertainment industry. While Walker never married or had children, he has admitted to having many relationships, and his personal life remains private. Even now, in his late 70s, he continues to perform stand-up comedy, showing remarkable energy and dedication. His career proves that, despite criticism and tension, he always stayed true to himself and his comedic voice. No discussion of Good Times would be complete without mentioning John Amos, who played James Evans. Senior Amos was known for his strength, discipline, and willingness to speak his mind. Just like Esther Rolle, he often clashed with producers about how the family was portrayed. Amos wanted James Evans to be a strong father figure, not a background character. This stubbornness eventually led to him being written off the show. But Amos didn't let that setback stop him. Soon after leaving Good Times, he starred in Roots, where he played the adult Kunta Kinte, a role that earned him an Emmy nomination. Over the years, Amos built a long and respected career with appearances in Coming to America, Die Hard 2, The West Wing, and more. Even late in life, he continued to take on roles that mattered to him. Sadly, Amos passed away in 2024, but his legacy remains powerful. His insistence on authenticity and dignity, much like Rolle's, showed that he believed entertainment had the power to shape how people saw themselves. Together, Rolle and Amos formed the moral backbone of Good Times, and their departures revealed just how essential they were to the show's impact. While Walker, Rolle, and Amos often got the headlines, the other Evans children also had stories worth telling. Bernadette Stanis, who played Thelma Evans, grew into a beloved figure among fans. After the show, she became an author, writing books about love, self-worth, and financial literacy. She also became a motivational speaker, traveling across the country to inspire others. Her role as caregiver for her mother, who suffered from Alzheimer's, turned her into an advocate for awareness and education about the disease. Ralph Carter, who played Michael Evans, had already been a star on Broadway before joining Good Times. After the show ended, he returned to theater and music, performing in productions and eventually teaching. He also stayed connected to fans by attending conventions and interviews. Both Stanis and Carter, like their on-screen parents, used their fame as a foundation, but did not let it define them. Their ability to move beyond Hollywood while still honoring the legacy of Good Times shows just how powerful that experience was, both personally and culturally. The story of Jimmie Walker and Esther Rolle continues to fascinate people because it represents a larger truth about entertainment. Hollywood has always wrestled with the balance between comedy and responsibility, between making audiences laugh and making them think. Rolle believed the show had a duty to uplift, while Walker leaned toward pure entertainment. Neither approach was wrong, but their clash symbolized the